Hello and welcome to the PI Filmmaker podcast. Now, this week and next week, I'm going to be playing an interview that I recorded with film graduate James Littlewood. I'll be playing that for you in a moment, but I'm going to start with a comment that was posted on the YouTube channel under one of the episodes, the last episode, and then I'm going to read out my response as well, because there was a few interesting questions and points that were made that I just think are worth sharing. So, hi Mark, big fan of the podcast. I read this back and the first part sounds like a dig, which it isn't. I'm genuinely curious of your thoughts as a former lecturer. In previous episodes, it seems you talk about previous students with some disdain if they're not prioritising what you consider to be true cinema. Taking into consideration the way you split from your previous role, I get the bad taste it may have left in your mouth. I understand the frustration with students not putting in enough effort when it comes to filmmaking, and I imagine this may be a combination of being an 18 to 21-year-old trying to navigate becoming adults, moving to a new town, city, etc., and may result in them not prioritising filmmaking in a way that would help them develop faster. I also wonder if many of these students are new to filmmaking and they need time to test things out and learn as they're at a university or film school, without the pressure of sticking to a film story alone and failing to learn technical skills whilst they have access to expensive equipment and tuition. I can speak personally of having never picked up a camera before studying at film school, and I spent the first 2.5 years trying to learn, experiment and fail before feeling comfortable to direct my first short film, and I always wished I'd had another 3 years in that environment as I felt I was just getting started. Sorry for the long paragraph. My questions are: do you think that a film student leaving university should be on the level or close to the level of a seasoned filmmaker like yourself? Should a student reject pushing the boat out with everything other than story, so stylized filmmaking with more equipment than what is necessary, than what is a necessity, spending money on props, etc., meaning that your suggested method of making low-budget strip-back films is the only one worth putting time into, as it's the most likely to work? What are your thoughts on where student filmmakers should be when they leave university? What would you say is a reasonable level for them to be at? Would you say students could be at different points on their filmmaking journeys when they leave, or is there a minimum standard you would expect, and if so, what is that? Looking forward to the new film. Thanks, Henry. Okay, so I responded. Hello, Henry. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for taking the time to write such a considered message. Don't worry, I don't take the comment as a dig. I think the first thing I'd push back on is the idea that I have any disdain for students. I don't. I've spent countless hours outside my teaching commitments helping students develop their films. If I had any disdain for students, I wouldn't have spent years working in higher education, nor would I have spent days working on long-form video essays for free, or now creating weekly podcast episodes that touch on film education. I'm interested in helping people develop and learn. The frustration I sometimes had in higher education wasn't with students themselves, but with the fact that some simply weren't interested in engaging with the learning process. There are wider issues in higher education around engagement, the growing student as customer mentality, hostility towards academic feedback, and how some forms of student misconduct are dealt with. Some of those issues are reflected in research that the union has been carrying out, and some relate directly to my own experiences, including the Blurred Lines review bombing. But those issues are for another podcast. In terms of supporting film graduates, this Friday's podcast is a conversation with one of my former students. The episode, which will probably end up being split into two parts, gives a recent graduate the chance to talk honestly about film school, so what worked, what didn't, and what life has been like since graduating. Hopefully that demonstrates that I'm interested in supporting students long after graduation and genuinely listening to their perspectives even when they differ from my own. In terms of the length of film courses, I completely understand your frustration at feeling like you'd only scratched the surface after 3 years. It's a problem. Film courses often end up feeling like a tapas menu. You get to sample lots of different things without ever really mastering any of them. I don't really have an answer beyond more practice. So, questions and answers. No, I don't expect students to have the same understanding of cinema as someone who's been studying and making films for 20 years. That's the whole point of education. None of us leave university as finished filmmakers. I certainly didn't. And I'm still learning now. So I put in a quote from Francis Ford Coppola from 2011. Quote, I just finished a film a few days ago and I came home and said I learned so much today. So if I can come home from working on a little film after doing it for 45 years and say I learned so much today, that shows something about the cinema, because the cinema is very young. It's only 100 years old. Obviously that bit's now a bit outdated. 2. My concern has always been what happens after graduation. I think it's a real shame when someone spends 3 years studying filmmaking and then never makes another film, which happens more often than you'd think. Because I genuinely believe everyone has something to say and a story worth telling. My advice sometimes sounds blunt. It's because I want students to understand that there are habits and approaches that make a lifelong filmmaking practice much more achievable. Students can absolutely reject an independent or micro-budget approach if they want to, but I think they should at least know it's an option. Many film courses naturally focus on traditional production models and the Hollywood dream, when in reality that path is only open to a very small number of people. So I don't think students should avoid stylization or experimenting with equipment, lighting or production design. Quite the opposite. University is one of the few times in your life where you have access to that equipment without paying for it yourself. Obviously there's some debate around that because you are paying the course fees, but you get the broad point. So you should absolutely make the most of it. In fact, from my experience, graduates often regret not taking greater advantage of those opportunities. However, I don't think the ultimate goal should be to imitate someone else's style on a student budget at the expense of finding your own voice as a storyteller. My approach to teaching filmmaking has never been don't experiment or keep your filmmaking unflashy. It's that story, performance and actually finishing films matter more than endlessly chasing production value. If someone can make a visually ambitious film and tell a compelling story, brilliant. My concern is when production value replaces the fundamentals, which includes competent framing, sound and editing, or when students convince themselves they need expensive equipment, large crews and significant budgets before they can make meaningful work. 3. So what level do I expect to see in a film graduate? So not perfection. My films look like shit when I graduated from my MA. I was shooting on mini DV. I certainly don't expect professional mastery. I just hope students leave university able to take an idea from script to finished film without waiting for permission, a huge budget or perfect circumstances. If they can do that, they'll keep improving long after they've graduated. I also hope they leave university with a bit of humility, recognising there's always more to learn alongside an understanding of how to run a good set, one where people feel respected, nobody is taken advantage of, and everyone enjoys the process of making the film. Having fun seems to be a strangely forgotten part of filmmaking education sometimes. I've heard some absolute horror stories over the years, and I think universities have a responsibility not just to produce technically competent filmmakers and confident storytellers, but decent collaborators and decent people. Happy to answer further cues, and thanks again for listening. Excuse me. So I think that was an interesting debate that started on YouTube, and I'd welcome more of these comments, because I think sometimes I'm recording this in isolation and some things can seem very sort of, it's either this or that. No, filmmaking for me, like a frustration of teaching filmmaking is that it's often taught one way when I know that that's not the case. Like there's many ways you can approach film production. I don't think you necessarily need a huge crew. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I think even in with Notion, the 2 short films that are part of the narrative, I made them in a completely different way than the rest of the film. So the main narrative was predominantly me and Miranda working with a couple of actors, whereas the short films, I had a cinematographer, I had a crew, and those shoots were done very differently, and I was aiming for a different type of look. So I don't think there's any one way of doing anything. And hopefully it doesn't come across that I have any disdain for students. Like, I just find it frustrating when people sign up for a course and then they don't attend, and they look at the tutor and say, why am I not doing, why am I failing, why am I not getting the grades that I deserve? And we're going to get into some of that today, because the timing of this comment online, I think, was great in many ways, because I'd invited James on prior to this comment appearing, but I do want to help people. Like, if there's anyone out there who feels like, okay, I need some help, I don't really know how to navigate this, the world of filmmaking after graduation, I do want to help them. And obviously James he messaged me out of the blue on LinkedIn, and he was like, "Hi Mark, I hope you're well." I didn't really know what he wanted, but I got the sense that he wanted to chat. So I said we exchanged a few messages, and I said, "Listen, why don't you come on the podcast?" And he was like, "Oh, great, I'd love to do that. So we did. We recorded an episode, and it's going to run over two podcasts, because 2 episodes of the podcast, because we chatted for quite a long time. So the first episode is predominantly touching on James's background, what he was doing at college, and then his first year at university, how it was different from what he expected, modules he enjoyed, modules he was less passionate about, his third year final film, which he really enjoyed, that process of finally getting to direct a film. And then we also get into the Blurred Lines reviews, the review bombing that happened on Letterboxd, because some of them reviews were posted by James's peers. So it's interesting to hear his perspective on that event and what happened online last year. And then next week, if you come back to listen again next week, we get into post-graduation. So what James has been up to over the past year since graduating in July 2025. And it's interesting. It's kind of sad, like how he's felt post-graduation. And he's been great in terms of being open about his mental health and the effects that post-graduation, that feeling kind of lost, not knowing where to go or what to do, the effect that has had on his mental health, and obviously finding a job. So I'm going to play that now. I hope you enjoy it, and if you want to leave more comments on YouTube and to engage and make this more interactive, and I'll respond on the podcast, please do. Okay, enjoy. Okay, so James, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and, I don't know, like where you're from, like your college before you went to university and things like that?
Okay, so I'm originally from Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, and before I went to uni, I went to Huddersfield New College. I studied creative media.
Like a BTEC? Yeah.
Yeah, I did a BTEC, yeah. And I did A-level history, and I did A-level drama, actually, because originally I wanted to be an actor, and then I discovered I don't quite like being on stage that much.
Right, okay. So, you then decided to study film at university. Why did you choose your university, and what attracted you to that particular course?
Well, it was mostly like the location of where that was. It was very linked towards all like the media sector and all that. I mean, obviously, my other options were London.
Yeah. So you picked a university in Greater Manchester, and so that we can speak freely about your experiences. We won't say where that was, but we're going to get into like university learning and film education. So you chose a university in Greater Manchester, and the other options were London.
Yeah, London. Obviously, my hometown as well, the University of Huddersfield. I thought I wanted to do drama still then.
Right.
I don't know what changed. I don't want to change my mind, but I realised that I had the opportunity to choose where I wanted to go. And obviously, when I first went to that open day, I don't know, I loved the process, and I saw how professional it was. The teachers knew what looked like they knew what they were talking about, you get what I mean? So it kind of reeled me in. So, and plus that thought of, because I didn't quite know Greater Manchester that much. I didn't know the area. I only been a few times, but never like truly lived, in that area. So I wanted that sense of independence, I guess.
And what career did you imagine that this would eventually lead to, based on signing up for the course, the open days, and then what you experienced early on the course?
What, in like first year, Mark?
Well, long term, like what did you you see what they've got on the open day, the gear, where it's based. Where were you thinking, okay, this might lead to this, or were you not thinking about it in that way?
I wasn't actually. I was just kind of like saying I'm just going to go with the flow on this one, see where I end up. And as obviously the years went past, I really wanted to do film directing, but how that course was structured, I didn't have the ability to do that, which kind of frustrated me a little bit.
So you sign up to this course, and we can get into the modules and what you learned or what you felt you were missing. Once you started on the course, did first year live up to expectations, or did you feel like it was different to what you were expecting on the open days?
It didn't actually. It didn't live up to the expectation, because I really went through this whole... See, it wasn't the course itself, it was the people that were on the course. My perception of when I go to university, you think everyone's going to be like mature, you know, we're going to deal with this like adults. But no, that's not the case, you know. I was with this one guy, and he proceeded to, well, he was the director at first, and I was...
So this is on a group project?
This is our first group project.
Right.
And can I swear?
Yeah, we swear all the time on here.
It was an absolute shit show, Mark. I absolutely hated it. So it really put me off. And I've never met someone so just snarky and unprofessional and just so out to get you just for what? Just because we've pointed you as a bad person. Like we've clearly found out you've done some bad things. So what he did was, because we found this out, his friends were our actors. So he pinned his actors against us, accusing me and my group of basically mistreating the actors. And then he went to one of our tutors, and he said all this nonsense, and all towards me, by the way, because he accused me of taking over his role. Bear in mind, he wasn't getting anything done.
So straight away, first project, you're having problems, and what was the answer of the tutor? What was the suggestion?
Well, she suggested that he would go on and do his own thing. We never saw what he did. He kind of went his separate way. It was just, I don't know, it was just disturbing, really. It just caught me a bit off guard, because it was just like, right, okay, I'm directing a film, but also now, like, within a week of production, when we've got to shoot, we've got to find new actors, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And I was stressed out. I was real stressed out, because I thought it surely is going to be more professional than this. But, you know, obviously that's not the tutor's fault. That's kind of the people that I guess they're enrolling, I think.
Across the 3 years, you don't have to say my module, but which bits stood out to you as like, okay, that was helpful, this was a good part of the course? Which bits were probably a little more disappointing and you feel could have been improved?
Okay. Well, I will say third year is the best. Third year was the best because you actually had an idea and you had the chance to promote your idea.
So let's just unpack that a little bit. So in year one and year two, it felt like you didn't have the opportunity to, present your work?
It was based on a voting system.
Right.
So you could have so many wonderful stories that got blocked out because these people don't necessarily have a network.
Just for a bit of context, there's a lot of students on this course, isn't there? Like, how many were in your year in first year?
That is a good question.
It was 200 plus, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. No, there was a lot. There was a lot of us.
There's like different, they're called PTGs, so everyone's in their own kind of personal tutor group, and then you do lessons with them. So there might be, I don't know, Rob Smith or some other person that you never ever meet on this course.
No, and they could be fantastic.
There's no Rob Smith on the course, by the way. I just plucked a generic name out of my head.
I can't remember any Rob Smith.
So basically, there might be people that you could collaborate with that you never get to meet because of the size of the course and how it's divided up. Yeah. So third year was positive because you finally had an option to, or the ability to present your own ideas. But prior to that, what modules did you study as so you've got the core filmmaking modules. What else did you select as kind of optional modules that you wanted to specialise in?
Okay, so I did editing in second year, I really enjoyed that. I'm trying to think now, Mark. Obviously, yours. You really helped me make my first film that I think I was ever proud of, actually.
Well, I was going to ask about that because you made this film. Do you want to talk about what it was about? Because I think it was a really strong piece, and if you don't mind me saying, I actually preferred it to the third year film that you went on to make.
Oh, I do too.
Okay, so like in year 2, you made this film on the module that I taught. Do you want to talk about what that film was about and the response?
Yeah. So this film was about. Obviously, we're talking about people being put on a pedestal, and obviously that course made me feel like very much I don't really belong there. I kind of felt like an imposter in a way. I was just like I was going through a lot of mental health stuff at the time, and I just thought, okay, how can I do this? And I remember sitting down with you for hours, and you said to me, what's bothering you? And I don't know, I'd never really thought of it like that. So, and what was bothering me was at that time was my imposter syndrome. I don't belong there, but I felt I had to do this, be this thing of, for me to be noticed, for me to be somewhat, stand out on the course, to be, so everyone knows who I am. I've got to be funny. So I made a film about that. I made a film where I was looking at myself in the mirror, but what was looking back was this clown. And I thought that was a good symbolism. I was really looking into German expressionism at the time. But then, obviously, with that message of, I'm a clown, I don't belong here, I can't really look at myself in the mirror anymore because I feel like I'm a fake, I'm a fraud. So I don't know. And obviously you taught us, write what write what you kind of feel really deep within your heart, and that's what I felt. And I felt like that's why I'm so proud of it, because I felt I can look at that film now and I can be like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
It was a really strong piece of work, and you should be really proud of it.
I am.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it? So you then, like I mentioned that your final film was a little bit different. What is it about that final film now that you look at and you feel less proud of?
I think it's because I didn't write that one.
Oh, okay.
I didn't write that film.
So that film you made kind of like this. A monster comes back in someone's suitcase and starts killing people in the house, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like there's comedic elements.
Yeah. I guess it was something that at the time I wanted to try out. I want to make this awesome. I want to make this good. I don't really want to make this about me. I want to make this just a fun thing to watch. And everyone, to be honest, everyone on my course, I remember when we all watched it, everyone was clapping, and loads of people really enjoyed it. Even my crew, they said that I should be proud of that. But deep down inside, I just felt like it could be so much better. Like I could have had more of a personal thing towards it, because I didn't feel like the characters weren't deep enough. But what I found very difficult was because I was the head of all this. I was directing all this, and I found that very stressful. Obviously, you're gonna find that stressful.
If you were directing that film, so we touched on this, the modules you studied, you did editing, personal independent filmmaking. Did you do the directing modules? Did you feel... I
didn't actually.
Right. Did you... Because, I'm wondering, this is an example whereby people are allowed to work on final year films in roles that they never specialised in.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you not select the directing modules? What went on there that you wanted? Because you said you wanted to be a director, but you avoided the modules where you would have to operate in that role.
Well, it's because I heard from my friends that the module, to be honest, wasn't that good. So I was like, okay, And obviously, I think I did camera in second year, and obviously I was like thinking, why am I doing camera?
So you did the cinematography module.
I did.
Okay. So the cinematography module, for the listeners, you get to shoot on celluloid, which is obviously a big selling point for a lot of people. Like, they think they're Christopher Nolan for the 12 weeks that they're on that module.
Yeah. Oh my God. Some people are just taking the mick, man.
How so?
I was put on this, you got this one, obviously not saying names, but
you get a roll of celluloid.
Yeah. And you're going to film this music video. And then obviously, everyone's already established. Some people are established. And then it's just like, okay, are you going to ask me what I want to do? No? So yeah, James, you're the grip.
Oh, right, I see. So you didn't actually get to...
No.
Oh.
No, I didn't.
Right, so
this
you
is
selected...
What I mean. This is what I mean.
Yeah. So you selected cinematography thinking you were going to get to shoot on celluloid, and you ended up in a supporting role.
Yeah, which I thought was complete and utter bollocks.
Right,
I thought
okay.
I was so mad, because I was just like, what? How much am I paying a year here?
Well, I mean, we'll get to that. Don't worry, I've got a list of questions. So the directing module you'd heard bad things about, so you did cinematography.
Yeah.
What happened in third year? What did you specialise in third year, your optional modules?
Marketing, actually.
Okay. And how? Oh, so that's potentially going to be helpful because you're now thinking about moving into that area. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And what was your other one that you selected?
So I originally did editing for the third year, but then I decided the way it was going, I wasn't enjoying it as much. So what I ended up doing was, I saw this other module, which was the horror module. Right. And I thought, well, I'm doing a horror, go to horror,
It's like analysing horror cinema, isn't it?
Exactly. So I thought I could use that for inspiration for writing, because I thought I was going to be writing at the time. And then obviously my imposter syndrome kicked in. I can't write anything. Oh, I know. Okay. We're gonna get a writer on it.
Right.
My biggest mistake, I think. I thought I regret that. Because I see it was rushed. The script was rushed. That's what I am annoyed about.
The thing, no matter how many times I spoke about this to students, it's like no one believed me. Like, that idea that if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage, as Spielberg says. If it's not there on the piece of paper, it doesn't matter what you do with drones, with Steadicams. You can't shine shit. It's like it either works as a story or it doesn't. They thought that, like, Mark, you don't understand, Mark. It's like, I guess I don't understand.
Well, if you didn't understand, why you're a teacher?
Can I ask? So when I did a Q&A a few years ago with a filmmaker called Sophie Ranvari, who made a number of short films, and now she's released her first feature film in cinemas. When she was at university, she said that it was very much geared towards a specific type of filmmaking around crews, around specialising in specific roles. And she said she finished her film degree and felt like, okay, filmmaking isn't for me. And because she was offered a job in, I forget specifically what it was, but she ended up being quite sick. And whilst in hospital, she decided, wait a minute, I love filmmaking. There's a story I want to tell. And she went off on her own and made a film. A long way to get to the question, but did you feel like a specific type of filmmaking was presented on the course as this is the right way? Do you think there was a preference given to specific types of filmmaking, and what was that type of filmmaking?
It's Hollywood, isn't it? It's Hollywood filmmaking. They made it, they catered it in a way in which was like, you've already got the equipment, you've already got this, you've already got that. I can get why she felt like she didn't want to make it, because for about almost a year I've not been wanting to go into it because it stresses me out.
Yeah.
So
for a bit of context, like on these on some of these core filmmaking modules, you'd have been using cameras like Arri cameras, like they're all top industry equipment.
Yeah, my third year film, we used the same camera that filmed friggin' Age of Ultron. Like, right. you get what I mean,
Yeah. And we're going to get onto some of the struggles around your mental health in the past year, but like you said, you've done a lot of reflection from going from the Age of Ultron camera to being back living with your parents and trying to find work. Like, how do you reconcile that? And do you feel like university actually prepares you for the realities of that situation?
I've spoken to many of my friends, and you know, I've been to house parties with all of my ex classmates and stuff, and they're all doing dead end jobs. You get what I mean? They're doing jobs because of circumstance, and I think that's obviously because of the economy right now, but also it's because there's not really jobs out here. Because, you know, it was promoted as this, oh yeah, okay, we're connected to the industry, we're connected to this, and there was zero networking events. The job fairs that they used, there was TikTok Shop, and I was appalled by that.
What's TikTok Shop? What does that mean?
You know the social media app, Mark?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not that old.
Yeah.
I know what it is, but
Well,
I mean, what do you mean, like?
I get exactly what has that got to do with us?
Oh, I see. They're saying go and do that as a job.
So a careers fair, you'd think that they'd bring in production companies, film companies. You get what I mean? Because they're well networked from what it was presumed as. But then they just bring in TikTok Shop and just all these other things that have got nothing to do with us. I didn't really feel seen, really, because it was just like...
I mean, I did do a Q&A with Sean Baker. That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
That was cool. That was cool. And that was before Nora as well. And I saw Nora, and I thought it was fucking brilliant. I loved it.
I mean, what an opportunity, because how openly did he speak about that film? He was basically telling us everything about... He told us the budget. He was like, but please don't tell anyone what the budget is. He was talking about guerrilla filmmaking in bars.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, Mark, I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't on that call, and I completely regret that. I should have been. I know, I should have been.
Where were you?
I don't even know where I was at that time.
Do you know what, right? I remember at one point Sean Baker said how many people are on the call, and I looked at the number and I realised that a load of people had skipped it. I was so devastated. I thought, if Sean Baker can't get people excited, what hope do I have of engaging students?
I know, man. I know, and that's why we're great. Because I was just like, you know, I saw his films, and I was just like, after I saw Nora, I was like, no way.
Do you know what I know happened? And maybe this is what happened with you. A lot of students had organised, and this is where it's like some students have just got unreal expectations of how the world works, because on the course there's a thing called Production Week where you get a week off timetabled classes to go and make your core module group film. And they were like, Mark, why have you arranged it for that week? It's like, do you think Sean Baker, I gave him a bunch of dates, he's very busy, he's trying to finish a feature film that went on to win Best Picture at the Oscars, that was the date he could do. He's not bothered about Production Week. Like he's not bothered. And when students were saying to me, why have you organised it I was like, get your head out your backside. But what surprised me was that is an example of being able to respond to schedule conflicts. Students should have been thinking, okay, how can we arrange our schedules, just make these little tweaks to shooting times so that we can attend a 6 p.m. guest lecture. Like, it was at 6 p.m. I don't believe that everyone was shooting at 6 p.m. I just don't. On a Tuesday night, like, knowing what I know about student projects, those timetables could have been reworked so that everyone attended. And it was gutting that a load of people skipped it, because that was a moment that was like a moment of clarity for me that some students will not engage. And I'm not saying that's the case for you. Maybe there was genuine reasons to miss it. I don't know. Maybe you were on one of your projects.
Yeah, or maybe I didn't really I didn't get the full picture of it, because I don't think. See, this is what I mean. Like, you know, I was a student, arrogant student. I probably still am arrogant. You get what I mean? Like, I'm not one to say I've not done wrong, you know. And there's some stuff on the course where I have been unprofessional, but, you know, I can look at that and say I'm learning from that. You know, I'm learning from that, and I think that's the issue with some people on that course. They don't want to admit that they've been wrong. Yeah. I mean, generally though, with the modules, did you feel like academically challenged as well? Like, you feel like, okay, I do feel challenged by this content that I'm being asked to do, the assignments. I do feel like I'm being stretched as a learner. Yeah, I did feel I was stretched in some ways. In some ways, I was just like, that is the most simplest question on the planet.
Oh, okay. You know? Is there an example of that?
I can't really name a question, but, you know, common sense.
Oh, right, okay. I mean? There was a lot of teaching around common sense.
Yeah, it's just like, well, obviously you're going to do that.
Okay. Maybe it's not obvious, though, because, like,
To some people,
I
no.
had to supervise a group, and we actually had to, in third year, do lessons on just running a meeting because they all just kept arguing. And it's like, but no one was minuting the meetings. Like, no one was like saying, okay, this is the point that needs action, which is kind of frightening to me because you're 6 months out from work and people are showing up half hour late for meetings and no one's actually actioning a meeting, which is frightening. So maybe, like you're saying, it seems obvious, but to other people, maybe it's not. And I guess it goes back to, again, who you're enrolling on a course.
That's the thing. You see, is it all right if I talk about how you enroll on the course?
Everything's okay.
So how you enroll was you had to send, obviously, portfolio work. I didn't have much portfolio. I didn't want to send the film about a Toblerone, obviously, because I thought this is something that I've just made. Because at the time I wasn't taking it too seriously. It was a funny.
Probably not the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's how a lot of people arrive on the course. So go on, you didn't want to send your Toblerone film.
So what I sent instead was I just sent a few shots that I made whilst I was walking home from the park, and it was a nice sunset. I thought that was nice, and I put some music over it, edited it together, and I thought that at the time it was good shots. Obviously now I was shooting this on my iPhone, so the quality was terrible, but I didn't really care about that at the time. But obviously when I come into the course now, I'm thinking, oh my god, there's these people are filming films with 4K, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing many people out of the course that are making films, only the ones that are dedicated to their craft, you know, dedicated, that actually loved doing it. You get what I mean?
Yeah. So you're saying that enrollment, people weren't really stretched in terms of like, okay,
no,
is there a suggestion they actually want to do this?
Yeah. Well, I didn't think about the course. I thought more so about myself. Or just like, some people could have been already sending like short films right now,
right?
You know, and they've got a whole load of experience. And obviously, when I was a kid, I didn't really have much experience, and I was very socially anxious when I was younger, so I didn't really get myself out there until I was like 16. So I've had all my teenage years just gone away because I was too scared to do anything. So when I was presented to make a portfolio, obviously I was scared. I was just like, what on earth do I make? Okay, this is my only option. And then I got in, I was just like, oh wow, okay. Obviously one, I'm thinking, well, maybe I am good enough, or two, maybe I'm not, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, we talked about some of the learning. I want to talk about like the culture on the course now, because obviously you've kind of already alluded to it. The general culture on the course, engagement, what was it like in your year, student engagement? Because I'll be honest, I've seen students in tears because they felt like they were doing all the work, and they ended up in groups where there were people who were just basically doing nothing.
Yeah, slackers.
Lots
of slackers.
How rife was this problem?
I'd say quite rife, you know.
Right. You've said you had it in year one. Did you have it year 2, 3?
Yeah. I had it out all my years. Every single one of my years, I had it. There was always one person that ruined it for everyone else. There was always that one person, or it could have even been two. Yeah. You know, people just taking the absolute piss, and it's just like, what are you doing, mate? Yeah, I get we can have a laugh.
What's the impact on the mental health for the rest of the group?
It's the stress, isn't it?
Yeah.
This person's not doing that. So what? So who else is going to do it? Oh, I guess I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to do 2 jobs at once. And then what? You're going to get a grade for sitting on your ass? That's not fair, is it, mate? You know?
Well, yeah, no, I'd agree. Do you feel like there was accountability on the course? Do you feel like these people were held to account?
No, not really, no. I mean, I've heard stories like you mentioned, people crying. You know, people actually, like some people having absolute meltdowns on shit set, you know, bawling their eyes out. You hear what's happening. You hear, oh my God, I've heard so-and-so's production's an absolute nightmare. I'm glad ours is not like that, which is bad. It's bad, but, you know, then I guess you think about, okay, why is that like that? It's because they've not prepared. They've not because they kind of been a bit blasé about it. You know, they're not taking it seriously because they're thinking you're at school. Yeah, you're at school, but you're trying to improve your craft. You get what I mean? If you're slacking off, I get you're tired, but maybe it's because you're living by yourself. You actually don't know how to frigging maintain yourself. You know, I mean, I was guilty of that. My sleep schedule was absolutely awful, but that's not an excuse.
There sometimes was issues around attendance. Do you feel like that was a problem? And do you think that there were
I was guilty of that as well.
Were people challenged on their poor attendance?
I guess if you can use me as an example, I presume it was the same for most people. Where have you been? I mean, I think it's where, obviously, I think the assumption is, from what I'm thinking is, if you're a teacher, and obviously students are the paying ones, I mean, it's my time that I've decided to do. I'm the one that I'm going to be in massive debt for, I guess. So it's my choice that's the mindset. It's my choice. I can come to this lesson or not. So, because obviously people view it as like, it's not like school. This is kind of like your extra school. Do you get what I mean? This is kind of like your...
It's interesting that. Do you think anyone ever looked at it from staff perspective? That staff are... Because obviously staff, there are certain expectations around them getting students through a module, getting them passed.
Yeah.
So like, I know, like, it's my money. I'll be there or won't. But like, there is then the stress that staff are under to get people passed.
Exactly. I described it like this. It's like all the students are in their own little bubble. They don't really look outside of that bubble. They don't really understand what they're doing. Some of them, and I can use myself as an example. And obviously, when you leave, you understand that bubble's been popped, and then you fall in with everyone else. You say, oh, okay. I think the course does build this weird sense of self-centeredness. It did build that for some people not.
It's really tricky, that, isn't it? For me, because to me, empathy and ability to step outside of yourself is central to being a filmmaker, a storyteller.
It is.
And people don't want to get into emotions and empathy and understanding. And if you've got a course that's creating a selfishness, that seems to be in direct conflict with what a central element to me of my filmmaking practice.
Yeah, but I think the course built that. You get what I mean? I think because you're competing against one another. Clearly, you knew who the courses were, who were the favourites on the course.
How did you know? How did you know?
They got everything that they wanted.
As in what? Equipment,
permission, and they could get away with some stuff that.
I heard rumours that sometimes some students in your year were not following risk assessments, and it was kind of overlooked. And
it was.
How does that make you feel when you see that some students are allowed to ignore risk assessments? How did that make you feel? What was the impact on you?
Well, not seen.
Yeah.
Not seen. What? So you're telling me clearly you guys like these more, because I kind of viewed it as like, if there's clear favoritism of these students, is it because you know that they're going to make you look good? They're going to make the university look good. Oh, we're graduates of this university. Oh my God, yeah, you came from that university. Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to go there too. It's plainly obvious in my eyes. You're going to promote the students that look the best, because in their eyes they are the best, because they're connected to the industry. And I think there's that bias. There's that awful bias of just like, this person's well connected already. We're going to promote the hell. We're going to promote the hell out of them, and we're going to support them the best way they can. But screw everyone else, because we don't really see potential in these lot, which is kind of what I felt. So I'm like thinking, is it a bigger problem? Is this bigger? Is this a problem from the higher ups, from the not the teachers, or is it specific teachers that are allowing this to happen?
What you get the impression that maybe some staff are frustrated, and above
Yeah,
them there's a problem where people don't want to challenge.
Yes.
So, but okay, interesting. So back to the course, I just want to talk about feedback and student engagement with feedback, because I know that not everyone read their feedback. But to you, was feedback useful? Did students use feedback to improve from your perspective?
I wouldn't say so, no. Obviously, I did look for the feedback. I did look at my feedback, and sometimes I thought it was very useful, and then sometimes I got a grade, and I was just like, "Well, how does that make sense?" How I mean, for my last year film, my creativity got really low score, and I wouldn't say my film was amazing, but I thought it deserved better than that.
So there wasn't a clear enough idea in your mind how the marking criteria was being applied.
Yeah, because teachers could say one thing, and then and then when you do the thing, you get marked lower, and it's just like, what? So what am I meant to do?
Okay.
Do you get what I mean?
Did you witness? I mean, we'll get on to certain issues, but do you think that some students responded negatively to criticism?
Oh yeah, yeah, they did. I've heard things like, "Oh, fuck this, fuck that," "fuck this guy. I'm not gonna listen to them." And it's just like, dude, take it with a pinch of salt. It's not an attack. I think people look at his criticism as an attack against them as an artist,
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So what could be done within education to help students understand that, no, this is not about you personally, this is about the thing that you've made and helping you improve as a filmmaker?
Oh, God, that's a good question.
Too big of a question maybe for a Saturday morning.
Yeah, I've had 2 cups of tea, so it's all right.
Oh, so I've had 2 cups of coffee. That's age. Go on anyway.
Oh, bloody hell. I'm going to go on about, favouritism again. People with favouritism obviously got higher grades as well, and you're just like, what? But it's because you allowed them to do that. They made a better film because you allowed them, because you ignored the risk assessment. I was like, that is amazing. But obviously it's amazing because you allowed them to do it. Obviously you can have the means to do that with a risk assessment.
That's interesting, isn't it? So, someone gets a grade, but they've broken their own risk assessment that they've also been assessed for. I can understand how that would create resentment.
Yeah.
If you're a student who's getting kind of, I don't know, middle tier grades, for instance, I don't know what you got specifically, but say you're getting, 50 to 60 on this assignment, but then someone's getting in the 70s.
90.
But 90s, okay. So they're getting in the 90s, but they've broken their own risk assessment.
Yeah, I mean, some of them...
how does that align with this notion we're preparing people for industry?
Yeah, I mean, but listen, some of them was using their own equipment as well. That they hired as well. They even hired their own, state-of-the-art industry camera because they had the means to do that, even though specifically on the course that was not allowed. But they let them do it anyway.
So obviously, with course culture and university life, social media is a huge part of that, and we'll get on to the effect it's had on you in the past year. How did group chats and social media affect the culture on the course?
Yeah, we had this group chat on our course, and basically, everyone felt like it was a way to kind of chat crap about each other. You get what I mean? Chat crap
about each other.
About each other, but also the teachers as well. You get what I mean? Obviously, I felt very uncomfortable about that, and I spoke up against that because I was just like, you got to be careful here, because one of us could just screenshot that and send that to them if we wanted to. So it kind of, everyone felt like that was kind of like their hideaway. You get what I mean? So there was this there was this toxic culture, I guess, as well.
We're going to get onto some difficult topics here because,
of course,
there was the group chat in question was screenshot and it went to certain people, and this group chat was called Film Bros and Film Hoes.
Yeah.
Now, looking back on that, how do you even feel about being in a group chat with that name?
It's just immature, isn't it?
So, I frequently heard concerns about misogyny amongst students where female students were experiencing being talked down to or excluded.
Yeah.
Was that something you witnessed?
Yeah. It's something I've heard, and it's something some of my friends have experienced as well.
So that sorry to interrupt you. Can you see how that film Bros and Hoes goes beyond mere immaturity?
Yeah, no,
like, to those students, them female students, how do you think they actually felt, some of them, being in a group like that?
I don't know, man. Like, I've not really, to be honest with you, this is the first time I'm kind of think about it in that way. Because, I guess I'm outside of this now. Look, in retrospect.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can understand like how that can make people feel, and you see, I've heard some people, it was just an all male crew, but on purpose, I believe, on purpose.
I think seeing the name of that group chat, I was honestly shocked. I was beyond shocked. I thought, I can't believe students are communicating in a group with that name. Like, I expected more from the youth of today, to be honest, especially given how quick they are to call out other people's behaviour.
I mean, we've I'm sure we've both seen adolescents. We've both seen like lots of males being very. I mean, I watched a Netflix show, How to Be a Man, with Danny Dyer, and you look at these people, these social media influencers. Who's to say that some people on these courses weren't watching these guys? You know what I mean? They probably were. I
mean, so I became aware of this group chat when obviously it all kicked off around a film that I released online.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's this group chat, and in that group chat there were certain students that were encouraging others to post reviews. And to your credit, you're one of the students that actually challenged this. You actually stood up against your peers.
Mm-hmm.
What made you do that? Were you worried about how people would react? Because it's very commendable in a course with hundreds of people for you to step up and say, wait a minute, you're doing this publicly to another person.
Yeah. Well, I looked at it as cyberbullying.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not the right thing. So in my eye, I was just like, well, I didn't think about it. Obviously I was anxious, yeah. Of course. I mean, I'm talking to hundreds of people, and I did get shut up, James, shut up. And I'm just like, dude, who are you? I'm sorry, who are you? I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And there was even people on there that I didn't expect would do such a thing. I looked at them as quite kind-hearted souls, and then to turn into such, just such arseholes. You get what I mean? I think they should really think about what they've done.
Did it change your perspective of that course, or did it reaffirm things that you already were aware of?
Well, it surprised me. But it did reaffirm some things, because I already knew some people were just pricks.
Right, okay.
I think some people did get away scot-free. They've just run away, trying to hide from their problems without taking, I guess, accountability. You get what I mean? Which, you should for that thing, because that is just ridiculous. Yeah,
it's a shocking thing, really, and it was so close to graduation as well.
Well, I told people you should be careful. We're graduating soon. If they see this, you're gonna be kicked off, mate. You're not even gonna get a grade. That's what I warned people of. Didn't listen to me, obviously, because
no. Well, as well, they you were probably wrong, because they did graduate, which is a whole other thing. So
yeah,
how
they shouldn't have.
How did graduation feel? Were you pleased with your final grade? Was there a sense of accomplishment?
Accomplishment, yet sadness.
Okay, how so?
Yeah, well, it's done. It's over. I can't get that time back. I can't be 20. I can't be 22 again, and I've finished everything. And I guess, obviously, when you're in that boat, you're thinking, okay, right, this is the end. What's next? What's next for James Littlewood? What's he doing? And obviously, you enjoy whilst it lasts. I mean, we had a whole party with all my friends. We went to this nice bar, and then I remember going on the train. I'll be honest with you, Mark, I bursted into tears.
Did you?
Because I was just like, that's it.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it there for this week. Initially, I was going to leave it on an abrupt cliffhanger, a bit like side one of Abbey Road by the Beatles. But given that I did that with Miranda's episode and some people were a bit taken aback by that, I decided to just bring it to a nice gentle close. So that's it for this week. Tune in next week for part 2 of my chat with James. And again, if there's anything you want to follow up on from this episode, or there's anything that stood out to you as a listener, please do comment and I'll address it next week on the podcast. But that's it for this week. Catch you again next week.